In a recent video, I made this app cover realistic, and you guys seem to like it. So today, I'm gonna take photos from the game Dumb Ways to Die, and then I'm gonna make them more realistic in Photoshop. But before we start, I do have to warn you, there is gonna be a little bit of blood. Alright, let's begin. I watched a video showing all the deaths in the game, and these are the 3 deaths that I wanna make realistic. That sounds horrible. First, we got this guy who doesn't know how to use scissors, and next we got this guy being swarmed with bees. And finally, we got this guy with no head. And I'm thinking we start off with the scissors. So let's see how this even happened. First, I need to make the background, so I got this carpet texture and made it look like the floor. I also added a white wall behind it. But next, I took a piece of paper and drew a heart on it, like the original had, and then made some cuts in the paper. I added the piece of paper on the ground like the original, and also added the random piece, and then added a small drop shadow on the paper. I used the ellipse tool to make a circle, and then used the warp tool to shape it more like the character's body, and then drew the rest of the limbs with the brush tool. After that, I added a skin texture around the body and shaped it to look more natural, and then blended them together. Maybe the word natural isn't the best, but you know what I mean. Next, I added a shadow, but only wanted it on the torso, so I erased the shadow everywhere else. But then I added some shadows on the outside of some parts, like the legs and feet. And the next step was to recreate the face. So I traced over the mouth and eyes, and then added a realistic eyeball on each side. But this looked insanely cursed, so I looked at some other eyeballs for reference, and then tried to make it look a little bit more normal. Keyword tried. After that, I thought it would be funny to add some eyebrows, so I added some eyebrows. But I want to get to the blood. But before we do that, we have to add some scissors, so I added some scissors, and then colored the handle blue like the original. And then I just put it in his head. So I added some dripping blood coming from the wound, and then cleaned it up a little bit. I also added some lighting coming from the right side of the screen because the shadows are on the left. And then I added some shadows for the scissors, which was kind of confusing, but then I decided there's not enough blood, so I added more blood on the character's head and on the scissors. Following that, I added some more shadows on the character as well as a shadow on the ground. I also tried to put some pants on him, but it just didn't work out well. Here's a picture of it. We're not gonna go with that one, so this is the final product. For the second image, we're gonna recreate the bee picture, and if you're enjoying, don't forget to subscribe. But first, let's see how he died. But the first thing I did was draw the character's limbs, as well as making an oval to recreate the body. Next, I drew the bee's nest on the left and added a bee's nest kind of texture. Shortly after, I added some grass on the ground and added some shadows on the bee's nest. After that, I drew the face and added a lemon texture on the body, because this character makes me think of a lemon. I added some shadows coming from the character and made him a little more orange because we're gonna add some bees, which are black and yellow. But first I added some lines on the bee's nest to make it look more real, and then I added a bevel and emboss, which I also added to the character for some more depth. And in addition to that, I made the hole in the bee's nest look more like a hole. And finally, I added a bunch of bees on top of the corpse and added some bite marks as well. So this is the final image. If you have any fun ideas, let me know in the comments what I should design next, but now let's move on to the final image. For this image, we gotta make it look like a bear has bitten the head off of this character. This is gonna be pretty fun. Let's see how he died.
So no head?
First, I added a dirt ground texture and made it look like the ground. Next, I faded it out and added some trees in the background, as well as cut out the background from this bear image. After adding the bear to the image, I added a stick on the ground because he was poking the bear. I mean, that's how he died. And then I traced out the character. I added a little texture on the character and also added a bevel and emboss, and then a shadow on the ground. Following that, I changed the color on the bear a little bit and added some guts inside the character. After contemplating my life a little bit, I added some blood on the body and added a motion blur to make it look like it's squirting out of it. And finally, I added some blood on the bear's fur and then on its mouth. So this is my final image. I think my favorite is the first one because of how cursed the skin texture looks, but I also like the gore of the last one, and I kind of just feel bad for the guy that got stung by the bees. Let me know in the comments which design was your favorite. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.